Hello and good afternoon. My name is Dr. Jenna Andrews, and this is Professor Tim Krantz. And on behalf of Mott Community College Fine Art Gallery, we'd like to welcome you to the Art Talk series, which is a series of conversations that we do that feature professional artists, educators, and art historians who share their insights and creative processes and research with us. We would like to thank the Ballinger Trust to help make these talks possible. Today, my pleasure to welcome painter Sherel Chillik and sculptor Daniel Kienitz. Feel free to post questions if you're watching online. Post questions in the online chat, and we'll leave time at the end of the talk to take questions from both online and in the room. So, welcome, Sherel, Daniel. Thank you for being here. So, we like to have like this informal talk and learn about you and your process and creativity, creative work as a whole. So, Daniel, could you tell us a little bit about your background and your artwork?
Yeah, I went to college a lot, and part of that was actually coming here to Mott. We had a consortium program for the visual arts education. So some classes were here, but most of the classes were at U of M. And I just I fell in love with this building and with the staff. I was going here actually before Jenna or Tim. Mm-hmm. But, they were good too. But but these guys are inherited something great. Taking good care of it. So I started out actually as a photographer, and it took me a really long time to decide what I actually wanted to major in. And I discovered it was art, and then I started to be unsure, but then I discovered clay, and I was just stuck with clay. So I don't know if anybody has heard of Red Ink Studios. But this is like 15 years ago-ish.
Really?
Yeah, it passed a long ways. But we were a group of 30 artists, and we worked at this big warehouse. If you know where the old farmer's market is, there's a big white building, and that's where we were at that time. And the idea behind Red Ink was to just completely inhabit a building and make it look better, and then eventually sell it, and that's what happened. Let's see, after I majored in visual arts education, so I taught in Flint schools. I taught at a couple of charter schools, and in Flint, I loved my experience teaching at Whittier when it was still there. And I taught at Whittier when they actually moved to Southwestern. So that was a great experience, but really my love was making. And just over the past 5 years, I've gone full-time making art, and I'm very happy to be back to it.
Excellent. Yeah, and you were my student over at U of M, so
That's right. Yeah,
yeah.
I didn't forget that.
Yeah, so we weren't here, but we were both over at U of M.
Right,
So
yeah.
had lots of fun in classes.
When do you think you started classes at U of M Flint? Because I believe you started there just a little before I started as a student.
Well, in that program, yeah, about the same time.
Yeah.
But early 2000s.
Okay.
But I actually started going to U of M in like 92.
Right, because I know Chris Waters had said some things
Yeah.
about you were in one of her earlier classes.
Yeah, and I was thinking it was around 2004, 5 that you took my sculpture course.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was right there.
Yeah, that was great.
And
Yeah.
I'm guessing because I started here in 95, so I'm guessing when you were over there, I was over here, and when I was over here, you
Yeah.
were over there.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, we both go way back. Huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, Sherel, tell us a little bit about your work and background.
So I am Sherel. I'm from Detroit. I graduated from College for Creative Studies in 2018. But because CCS is so expensive, I'm sure as a lot of you know, I came to Mott because I needed to, take a class for a little less expensive and local. I was commuting from from Flint to Detroit at the time, and then that's where I met these lovely people. And they just kind of adopted me into the Mott family, which I appreciate, okay? From I would say when I entered high school is when I knew I was a painter. And I was like, okay, I kind of like this. Okay, I'm doing my little thing. And from there, I was just doing artist residencies and just creating a lot of portraiture. Like, I am obsessed with faces. And because the arm, boring, the hands, they are right. But the face, I really love just faces. So that's what I was working on when I was an undergraduate, and then kind of developed into more biographical work. Based off my experiences traveling. And so I was making work using acrylic, mainly acrylic paint. It's easy to travel with acrylic, and just having fun with that stuff. So yeah, that's just a quick little something.
So for each of you, can you tell us about basically this exhibit and the works, and why you did, or why and how you did them the way you did? Like, what was your process with these?
Okay, this is what I have here is actually a combination of two series. The series right before the one I'm working on now, in my present series. The first one series was called Polyvalve. It's almost a tongue-in-cheek name because of bivalves, clams and different. But I use a lot of cylindrical appendages on my pieces. And then the newest one's called Fruiting Bodies, where I'm symbolically trying to represent decay and renewal. I work, my aesthetic's kind of punk rock industrial. So I love urban areas, whether it's beautiful new building or something that's crumbling to the ground. And that's basically what's gone into these pieces. I rarely glaze my work. It is all clay, but I rarely glaze it. And
So are they slip?
it is underglaze and
Okay.
some slip, but usually underglaze. So
So it gives it that really kind of raw or matte surface.
yes,
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of shiny unless I'm making something for somebody that likes shiny things.
Do you have a kiln, or do you take it somewhere to get fired?
I used to have a kiln, but I got out of teaching and I wanted to be a student, so I started going back to FIA. I used to teach at FIA too, as a matter of fact. So I knew what it was like. I wanted to go back there, and I'm so happy I did. They have wonderful teachers over there. One of them is in the room right now. And Guy Adamick is the teacher I'm taking. He's been doing it for like 45 years. And he's actually an internationally known ceramist, so, and a great teacher. Now I don't remember what question I was answering, but
I think you answered it. Yeah.
okay, cool.
Yeah. So Sherel, tell us about the work in the show.
Yeah, so the name of the body of work is called Anywhere But Here. During the time I was still very new to Flint, and I was trying to discover other places that excited me. And so I went online, like artist residencies near me or far away. And so I ended up in Las Vegas. Oh, it's fabulous. And I was just found myself recreating or just documenting the things that I experienced, seen, smelled, tasted there. And I was very surprised with what I came out with. And I never thought my work was that, all about like my life story, but in a way it really is. A lot of the people in these portraits are my friends that I made before I went to Vegas or while I was there. And the same thing with when I was in Aspen, Colorado. I was capturing my family members and friends, bringing them along with me even though they weren't there. And I was placing them in these scenes that I was actually experiencing, and just what the vibe of the place would be. Like one of the portraits is of me just smiling with the with the jet going over my head. And I was telling Tim as I was setting up, I was like, no, the jets were really that close to my head. Like they were, yeah. And people are just, other artists they were like, oh, so many, all these rich people. And I'm like, I love it. All these rich, these are the people who are funding this. Let's not be too mean to the rich people now. But yeah, I was just capturing those actual lived experiences. And then so when I came back from Colorado, I was like, I miss Detroit. Let me go back home more often. And so I was just capturing my friends and family on my grandma's porch, or like holidays with my little cousin playing on her Switch, the tiny little painting over there. And just all traveling to Flint, the big painting that's called Anywhere But Here. We were literally traveling to Flint. So that really just I brought all of those pieces together for all of my travels, and I came up with that body of work. So yes.
Just follow up. What were you doing in Colorado?
So I was attending the Anderson Ranch Art Center residency. It's fabulous. Oh my goodness. Do not sleep on residencies, y'all. It's fabulous.
Can you explain what some of them might not know what our artist in residency is?
Okay. Besides that, I love them. Artist residencies allows you to travel and create a body of work without, some, they're different. Some require you to make work, have a show, have an artist talk. Some just say, just show up and do you. I like the ones that just say show up and do you, we give you some money. Some of them you pay for, some of them give you money. I like the ones that give me money. And it's just basically you're able to travel, make art, meet new people, and come home and then show everybody what you made. That quickly just sums it up. But there's so many all over the world. I like the ones that gets me out of the state, because you really grow as an artist and just as a person when you're able to travel, make art.
So they basically give you a studio to work in,
Yes.
and sometimes supplies, sometimes you bring your own. Yep.
Yep.
And then, I like the ones that pay you too.
Yes. Yes.
It's good to be paid as an artist
Yes,
for
it
being
is.
an artist.
Yes.
But I'm curious, do you work from photographs or from life, or for your portraits?
So when I was an undergrad, we worked from life, and it's fabulous to work from life, but it's hard. So I kind of take what I've learned about what things look in real life and apply them to when I'm painting as much as I can. So primarily it's photo. Like I told my family, hey, send me a picture of you on a thick chain, and ended up just painting it how I imagined he would look in that environment. But yeah.
Okay, so when you were in residencies, you
Yeah.
had photos.
Yeah.
They sent you photos. Okay.
Mhm.
So what would your dream project be, either of you? Besides being paid for your work.
Oh, absolutely. I wish I could remember the artist, but I just saw the other day there was a woman that moved here from Puerto Rico years ago, and she has a residency at Penland, North Carolina, which incidentally I heard got taken out by the weather.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Oh no, that place is incredible.
But she's there full time just making her art, getting paid really well for it. And she actually brought an artist from Puerto Rico, and they worked together on some pieces, so that was cool. But as far as making the art, I think that I feel like, I'd like to make work big. It's really difficult for any of you that have done ceramics. It's really difficult to work big. You have to have the kiln, like right there. You're here and right there, and you have to usually build on a kiln shelf so that it can be all slid within there. And those are problems that I'd like to face because I want to work on a very large scale. And I'd also like to do a clay mural, for sure.
I think, well, what I'm currently looking into is I want to work really, really large. And I'm looking at applying for like fellowships. I just want a lot of money. And I
Don't
want,
we all?
I want everybody to just be like, oh, just in awe looking at a huge piece of work in a studio to be able to make it in. So that's what my dream project right now is to get a fellowship somewhere and have a lot of space to make something humongous.
Space is a big
Yeah.
thing, yeah. It's hard. I mean, we learn to work wherever, right?
Yeah.
But it's nice to have like room to spread out or work big or not work in your living room like I do.
Well, yeah, and that can massively influence the types of work, the size of the work, how free you are, how tight you are, how many pieces you work. So yeah, space is very important. Okay, good. Well, sorry, I have a cheat sheet down on the floor. What is the best advice that either one of you have ever been given? Well, we'll start with Dan and then we'll go to Sherel. But what is something, or at least an experience, if you can't think of necessarily advice, just a general sum up. But also then I'll just go ahead and say you can answer both together. But what's the best advice you would give people as well?
Well, I was different as a younger artist, and one of the negative things that really actually helps me today to think about it, but one of the negative things was I was temperamental. I was very temperamental young artist. I would work in the clay studio, and that was the old 3D building there, and if something wasn't going right, there'd be like 5 splats of clay on the wall from me throwing clay.
That's where that came from.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm just not like that anymore. I discovered when I reclaimed art full time. I remember, and Jenna knows this because I posted it, but I remember I had 3 finished pieces, and I put them on a table where you could just rock it back and forth like that with your hand easy. And I got up one night and knocked it with my knee. That's 3 pieces of greenware, which hasn't been fired, destroyed.
So super fragile.
Yeah. Super fragilistic.
Ouch.
But it is, my reaction was totally unlike what I was before. I don't know if it's like mental wisdom or something, but it was 2 a.m. and I'm cleaning it up and putting it in my reclaim clay. Like, you guys are going to be new pieces now. So I'm definitely get through, as young artists, get through your temperament. Get through it. If you have it, if you don't think you have an ego, you do have an ego. And it does, it can do a lot of things to you. A lot of people are going to claim that you have an ego just because you're an artist. But some people may have witnessed it. The important thing is what you witness about yourself.
We witness it.
Yeah. Yes. Right. And the last thing, which I think that I was told by a lot of my teachers and a lot of my colleagues, is don't compare yourself, don't compare your work to other work. Don't do that. There's something about like trying to copy the masters or something to learn a process. But don't compare your work to other work. That will totally bring you down and just screw you up big time. So I think that last one's pretty important. So
I would say always remain teachable. Like, if somebody comes up to you and say, hey, you know what, remain teachable and be open to receiving feedback, especially from somebody who has, they're being sincere and they really want you to be better. Like, don't be afraid to just to listen. Like, shut up, for real, shut up and listen. Because they really are trying to help you.
We didn't pay her to say that.
Yeah. But seriously, yeah, just always remain teachable and always create work that's really authentic to you, because you can tell when it's not. And why not make work that's authentic to you? Because why not? It just, like I said, you can tell, and it's more fun. Because at the end of the day, who's going to be stuck with all these pieces? You, right? So keep making work that's authentic to you, and take feedback from, handle it well. Be able to take it back and receive it. That's it.
So, with what you just said, why do you think I'm smiling, or what do you think I want to ask you? I'll tell you. I think you already know. How about those backgrounds then?
It's okay. So when I was in Tim's class, I was not a fan of creating backgrounds because I was really just not interested in it. And then so I just let me just play with something. Let me find something I'm actually interested in, and then apply that, use those as my backgrounds. And it just worked out really well. So thank you, Tim. Shout out to Tim.
Actually,
It was every day. It was I'll get it. I'll get it. I'll get it. I'll get it. I'll get it.
actually, what you just said, and we're talking about feedback and such, I wonder, is there anyone or an event that really challenged you and pushed you out of your comfort zone? Like, really pushed you beyond what you thought?
I would say I've received feedback that just did not make sense. Like, it literally did not make any sense. I was like,
That was probably by me.
Actually, it wasn't. It was years ago. I was in New York, and people were comparing my work to some other artists. I mean, it was just like, we have nothing in common. What are you saying? And I asked I'm like, do you see what this person is saying? They were like, absolutely not. They're making that. They're just talking out their butt. And I was like, okay, I'm not crazy. So I was like, let me get feedback from another person about this feedback that I got, because that's crazy. So I guess that's the only way. I guess that's the best example. But yeah, some people just say the craziest things.
Daniel, was there an event or some one that really pushed you out of your comfort zone along your career?
Yeah. I'd like to talk about people. So the first person, I'm doing this in chronological order. The first person was Marcia Watkins, who I had studied ceramics under. We had had different views on a lot of things, and we discussed them rather than getting upset about them. I had made a series of religious, particularly Christian-themed artwork, and she knew I was an atheist. I don't know how, but she knew. And she was the one that got me talking about my artwork, because she said people see these pieces and they're going to want to know. And so you're going to need to talk about your artwork, and you may never become comfortable with it, but you need to do it, which is why I'm here. And the other person was Dr. Andrews. The other professor was sick, the ceramics professor, and I was actually the tech in the ceramics area for a little while and taught a few classes without getting paid. And I wanted to...
That wasn't here.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's U of M. Yes, that's U of M. And I wanted to do an independent study so bad. I went to Jenna, and she said, I don't know anything about clay. And I said, but you're a sculptor. You're a sculpture teacher. You can grade my sculptures. And this is where she really pushed me. She had agreed to do it. I took the class. I worked really hard. And I had 4, 6 pieces, maybe 5 pieces to show her, and we sat down with it and talked about them. She gave me some great feedback. And then we had 2 weeks to go for the semester. And she said, okay, now make 12 more pieces. And I went, what? 12 more pieces? And that did push me. That did push me to work, even when I have problems with motivation. I always remember that.
I remember the first critique, you brought me a bunch of vessels. And
Well,
I'm like, okay, that's fine, but this is a sculpture course. Where's the sculpture?
Yes, right.
And that really pushed you too. You're like, but it, you know, like
Yeah, I did work figuratively a lot after that.
yeah, and the combining the vessels and the figure, and I can see some of that in your work here too, where it's getting much more abstract, but very much sculptural, which is wonderful.
Yes.
We could go with the next bit. Both of you already kind of addressed this, but is there any additional or specific, more specific advice that you would give to current or potential students, especially specifically at this program?
Make a whole bunch of work. Just knock them out. Like, really be dedicated. So I remember one project that Tim gave us. I would think I was the only one who did it. I mean, it wasn't the project, but what he wanted us to keep track of the time that we were in the studio. And I had a long list. I was like, every second, I was like, okay, 12:45 to 3:15. But like, I was keeping track. And then I was like, look, Tim, I did. He was like, oh, I know you did it. And, but seriously, be drawing all the time. Have the music plan. I mean, sketch, whatever. Practice. Don't stop. Seriously, don't stop. Keep going. Do it all the time.
Good. Okay. Great.
I completely agree with that for sure. If you don't feel like, whether you're a sculptor or a painter, if you don't feel like touching a brush, if you don't feel like working in the clay that day and you're having a problem with motivation, sit on the couch, but bring your sketchbook with you. I always put on something that I don't need to look at. It may as well be a podcast, for example, and just fill your sketchbook up. And if you don't feel like you draw well, do it anyway. I mean, definitely do it anyway. And your drawing will improve. And the ideas are now recorded. And you just go back and you'll be surprised at what you do. Maybe you used 5 ideas from 5 different sketches for one piece. Still, that's a very positive thing.
I have kind of a follow-up for that one. You are constantly making and posting photographs, and I know some are manipulated and such, and they're all like urban and around, and sometimes it's the smallest object that becomes this like really significant thing. How does does that fit with this idea of drawing every day, and how does that inform your work, that constantly taking photographs and manipulating photographs?
Well, that's definitely that definitely informs both my sculpture and my photography. And just as an artist, I'm still creating. I wasn't making clay for many years, but I was doing these digital manipulations. Even when my computer died, I had no more Photoshop or Illustrator. I did everything on my phone. I'd use five different free apps to do what I wanted to do. And I have a big thing about urban environments, and I just collect photographs, my own photographs, build separate files for those on my phone, and just go. So,
Follow him on Instagram. They're great. Sherel, is there some kind of other media that you work in to like generate ideas for paintings or such?
I really love collaging. A lot of days I don't want to paint. So I like to just find magazines, references. I like things that looks a little dated. I would say like the 60s, 70s.
Right there with you. I love
Yeah,
it.
60s, 70s. That's like my favorite reading, time period too. But a lot of collaging. A lot of my paintings start off as collages. So it's a really good way to just like see how things look. And, removing backgrounds. And just lately I've been working removing backgrounds. Yes, Tim. And switching them out.
A lot.
Yeah.
And switching
A
them
lot.
out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
She said switching them out.
Yeah, switch out the backgrounds. Yeah. And lately I've been working digitally too. Just seeing how that feels. And I've been enjoying it. It's another way to play, like Daniel said, sit on the couch and draw. So I got an iPad for that, and I'm super excited about that.
So drawing digitally or
Yeah,
painting or
drawing
like
digitally.
collage? Do you collage
Yes.
digitally too?
Mm-hmm. But I like to use my hand. I need to use my hands,
Collage is so fun.
It is. Yeah, and it's super accessible to everybody. So I love that. Nice and cheap.
Yeah, you know, there's always people trying to get rid of their magazines, right?
And
So,
they're
hey,
expensive. They really are super expensive.
Oh, now they are.
They
yeah.
are.
Yeah. So, let's see.
Well, that's pretty much most of the questions, except, you know, you both kind of mentioned it, but do you want to mention anything more about your process when it comes to creating art? Or at least sum it up a little bit more, like you know, do you sketch a lot before you do, you know, is anything related to your process for both of you?
Okay, you'll hear this from a lot of clay artists. They'll say this phrase, so it's nothing I invented. I sketch in clay. I do that a lot. And that's not literally drawing in the clay, but literally building my ideas from just going. As Jenna mentioned, a lot of my vases are based a lot on the figure and vessels. And so the only decision I have to make when I first start, if I don't have the idea, is to just start with a circle or an oval and then build bottom up. Square, I've gone any direction. And most of my work is coiling. So I guess most of you would have an idea of what coiling is in ceramics. So
They might not, if you want to explain.
so it's basically rolling out coils, big worms, and building up by hand. And if you think about it, and I don't use the wheel, by the way. I don't touch the wheel. I sat down at it one time, but hand building is so incredible to me. Excuse me. The sensations, the feeling, you get it. And when I first really started working again, I opened a bag of clay and I just took my hand and squeezed it, and I really felt that. And sometimes I build with slabs. That's rare these days. Slabs are a little tough to get things looking organic. And even though I want things to look a kind of a combination between organic and man-made, coils still really serve me.
You know you're a sculptor when you have to like dig your hands into the material first, feel the material.
Yeah, right.
I wonder though, do you have a basic direction before you start building, or do you listen to the material?
I do work intuitively a lot, definitely, because there are solutions that you can't come up with any other way. And I do that because that will inspire a lot of work, because I sort of do have an idea now. This piece that I just built and let it go, and you always stop and look at it and say, what's next on this? Or is it done? When is it done? Things along that line. Same with painting. And I like working in stoneware, which is a really durable clay body. And I just started getting into color. So the color splashes you're seeing here are from the newer series.
That would be a question for you. Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to really quickly say I also had ceramics with Marsha Watkins too.
Oh, right.
And I had it with Tom Bonnert here at Mott, but then I also had it at U of M Flint with Marsha, and I hand built too. And in my case, it was because I was determined to use the wheel, and every time I would, Marsha would be like,
I can see her doing that.
And I was determined to do really well, and we had a Hungry Bowls project, and I made 7 bowls, and I loved how well they turned out. I was so proud of myself. And I said, Marsha, here are my bowls. And she said, no, thank you. And that's when I realized hand building and coiling was my my thing too. So.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, Sherel, kind of the similar question. Do you go in with a specific idea to fulfill, or do you also kind of listen to the paint and process as you go? The things like morph as you go.
Other than ignore the background.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Tim.
He doesn't let it go.
See, that was Sherel years ago. See, now I'm not afraid of the background.
No, you're not.
No.
You're not. Yeah.
But when I started, well, let me start way back. So my first introduction to painting was looking at the masters. Like, I did not understand that artists today were making work when I was in 7th grade. I was like, so you tell me people are still, you can do this. You don't have to be, 800 years old. You could be making work now. And so my first and it kind of stuck with me as I entered into like middle school and college, because we were looking at Caravaggio. And one of the things that I liked was that, not that his paintings were just so dark, is how that's one of my favorite things, but I just really liked his use of light. And so a lot of my paintings are darker. You can kind of tell which paintings are like a little bit older because of how dark they are. So that's how my work kind of morphed how it is, and in today. And that's how I understand like contrast. But the work starts, for me, the most important thing with my work is the figure. I always start there because they are telling the whole story. Like my little cousin, they're making a weird face because the sun is in her eyes. The light is super important. And so from there, I'd like to tell the story, and then the background comes in. As I've gotten older, I'd say within the past few years, everything has to be more planned out than it used to be. I used to let the paint just turn into whatever it's going to be. But now it's more important to not waste paint because it's expensive. And I can get things done faster when I really have a solid plan. But I do have to start at some point. And sometimes even I do have a solid plan, it still changes. But having a solid, authentic idea is where everything starts and ends for me, pretty much.
But you also are good about keeping flexible too.
Yes.
And responding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fighting the material, that's a losing battle.
Yeah, it is.
So let's open it up to other questions. You have a question, I'm going to have you speak into the mic. The mic is so that the people online can hear you. So any questions?
So do you ever go exploring, like legally, of course, but do you ever go exploring like abandoned buildings to take pictures of and kind of draw inspiration from those? Because when you said you like industrial and kind of old stuff, that's kind of what I imagined.
Absolutely. When I was 17, starting when I was 17, there were a lot of places in Flint and in Detroit. I'd like to say as I grew up, I stopped doing it, but I really didn't. The last time was, there were, the Eastern Market in Detroit, there were some slaughterhouses and a lot of businesses near that area. I don't know what they look like now because it's been years since I've been there, but back then I explored those places, and every once in a while you just say to yourself, this is really dangerous. And but the urge to do it, to discover and to see what urban decay looks like is pretty amazing. So yeah, I do. I haven't done it in a while, but I might do it again. Have the urge anyway, for sure.
Another question. Don't all speak at once.
Sherel, I was going to ask you how many.
Belva.
I'm sorry. How many paintings do you work on at any given time? Do you work on just one idea, or do you have multiple paintings going at any given point in time?
So I naturally work in series.
Okay.
It's funny because my husband revealed that to me, and I didn't really pay attention to that. But I don't like to work on more than 2 at a time because I want to finish things. It's important to finish. So, yeah, I have a set, mainly about 5, I would say, in my head, and then just try to work on 2 at a time.
Follow up for you, and for me, it might be different for everybody here. What do you feel for you is important about finishing the artwork in any and every way that you can explain that?
One, it's nice to have something finished.
Like a release. Like
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and it's just like to see something just happen. When I have, okay, so one of the paintings back there is of my sister. The painting's called 787. It's a Puerto Rico area code. My sister's in Puerto Rico. I was like, let me have this image of you. Let me make it fabulous. And I was working on that painting for 2 years. I kid you not. I was so frustrated. I like things to be done so I can move on.
It's like I always try to tell
Yeah.
these guys, you get on the struggle bus, you're not getting off
You
unless
never
you
fin-
make
yeah,
yourself get off.
You have to, I had to force myself to just be like, something was wrong with it every time. You know, it probably something still is wrong with it. I'm not going to hold you up. But I just had to move on, you know. But yeah.
Okay, question.
At what point, like for either of you, do you know that your piece that you're working on is like finished, or that you feel it's complete?
Did you hear? Yeah.
She said, they asked if, at what point do you feel or understand that a work is complete?
I give myself a break after I think that I'm finished. I like to go time periods with like looking at my work and then just not looking at it. And that way I'm able to see it with fresh eyes. And then I hear a little whisper that say, stop it. And I stop. Not really, but yeah. When I look at it, I'm like, I'm pretty content with this. And I
Better
stop.
than a thwack upside the head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Daniel.
I think Sherel would agree that if you don't stop, you can overwork a piece and ruin it that way. And friends of mine that were painters, one of them recommended signing it. You sign it, that means you're done. And that doesn't work. But and then a lot of people say, well, you could just paint over your mistakes. That only works to a certain level, right? So with my work, even if I'm doing a piece, playing it by ear, usually the end part ends at the top, and I start to get an idea of when it's going to be over, when it's done. And sometimes it's not done yet, so I have to roll out some more coils, make some more cylinders, and do that if I want the work to be good. How do I want this to work? I've got 5 or 6 hours into this little piece. How do I want it to look? So it kind of goes both ways. Sometimes I don't know when I'm done, but sometimes you do get that feeling.
Related to that, you mentioned, that you can overdo a piece. Well, I'm sure you have, both of you, but how did you know that you overdid a piece? What was the clues? It's like, oh, I should have stopped like 2 days
years.
ago.
I would say when I feel like the painting isn't no longer consistent looking for me, because I'm like, why'd I do this? This part is it just feels wrong. Or sometimes I'm just like, get somebody who I trust their opinion and who's not afraid to tell me this is not looking good. And that's where feedback comes in.
I was going to say, I bet Kyle's pretty good at that.
Yes, you're like, hey, how's this looking? And then somebody you trust will tell you it's looking raggedy. Stop.
If they give you that, it's interesting look.
Yeah, yeah.
Shh, don't reveal the interesting thing to these guys. I say it all the time, and they don't know what it really means.
What was the question again?
How do you know, or have you overworked something, which we all have?
Oh, yeah.
And how do you know that you did?
There's different things, but one notable occasion, I was building a sculpture that really needed to be balanced if it was going to be able to stay on a podium in a gallery without anybody worrying about it tipping over. Well, I've got a piece that I actually use as a doorstop because it was one of those pieces where I overdid the top, so it was too heavy to do it. My test is to push it, get on some carpet, get a flat piece of hard surface, and just push it and see how much it takes to push it over. But my mistakes come a lot with balance. If it's off balance, it's a rule in any sculpture. If it's off balance in one way or another, then and you keep doing what you shouldn't be doing, then
Gravity is cruel.
yeah, gravity plays favorites. That's for sure.
I know you used to, I don't know whether you still do, but you used to do some refiring, and I know you've lost some pieces that way, so that's like
Yes.
going over.
Yep, and I've still done that a few times.
Have you?
Yeah, against the advice of more experienced people, artists I respect. So
Learn the hard way. Questions?
Hi, Sherel. I work with Sherel, so I know
Yeah.
her pretty well. I was gonna ask you a question, but before that, I love the raggedy catchphrase. I hear it all the time, and it's
Yes.
great.
Everybody is really raggedy at my job sometimes.
Is
Yeah,
there
here
any
too.
like dream place that you would like to have like your fellowship or like study like abroad or something to like kind of develop your work? Either outside the U.S., in the U.S., just any. It's really up to whatever you want to answer.
Actually, I think about that a lot. As of lately, I just want to be back in Detroit making things. But if you talk about worldwide, I'm very interested in Portugal. I just heard great things about it overall. But somewhere that I just need to be in a big city. I'm a city girl. I need to be in the big city. I need an easy way to, be where I want to be. But as of lately, mainly just Detroit because it's the closest big city with a really thriving art scene. But Detroit, I love Colorado. Colorado is like fabulous, and it's very artsy, very artsy. So those are some few of the places, but mainly in the U.S. I don't want to learn another language right now.
Where's your dream to go, Daniel?
Oh, it's been my dream forever to go to Prague, and Berlin, or Spain, not France, but yeah, Prague, Berlin, and Spain. And I speak a little Spanish. I speak a little German, but I do want to go someplace where I have no idea of their language. You'd be surprised at how many people actually do speak English there, though, especially someplace like Berlin. Anything that's a big business center will speak English. And that includes in the East, too. China, all the colleges teach English. All your K through 12, they teach English. In fact, I think they're K through 13. But
Would you want to like stay there and work there, or learn or take classes there, or?
I'd like to do both. I would like to take workshops there. I'd like to have a roomy studio, so it's a dream, so it can be whatever I want, and just a gigantic sound system, and
Just the necessities.
never run out of clay.
So, any other questions?
Your respective mediums. Did it take you a while to settle on the mediums that you use, or have you always known that was your thing?
I've always known I wanted to be a painter. I mean, my first time picking up paint, I was like, oh, I know myself really well. So the first time I picked up tempera paint, I was like, oh yeah, this is it. So yeah, it was easy for me.
Tempera.
Yeah, tempera was the first thing my first painting was a bag.
That's what we had to use
Yeah.
back in the day here too.
Put some eggs in there.
Yeah.
Like I said, it took me a while, definitely. God, I know so much, philosophy and English and on because I didn't know what my major was going to be. But like I said, my first love was photography. But when I started working in clay and realized I'm pretty good at this, I better learn how to do it. Learn how to do it right. Learn how to not ruin pieces and things like that. So I think a weird thing happened where I knew I wanted to do clay. There was a big machine in the clay studio, and you basically put wet clay in there, but it's always supposed to be wet. And throw it in there, and it's supposed to just mix clay around, and then you pull it out, and you can make new free clay. Well, that hadn't been used in years, but there's all this clay in there. And so I'd never done it before, but I guessed how to do it. Just poured some water in it, let it soak. And so it turned out to be about 300 pounds of clay that I made. And I think that's as far back as I can remember where I felt attached to clay. So, yeah.
So, what I really want to know is, how do you guys manage burnout? Because me personally, I have a bunch of projects, especially like paintings for other people that I need to get done. But like every time I try to sit down and like work on it, I work on it for maybe a half hour to an hour, and then I stop. And I really need to work on like getting motivation. So I want to know, how do you guys manage?
You say you're doing stuff for other people.
Mhm.
Are you charging them?
No.
You need to. Because that's where motivation will come in. Seriously.
Yep.
Don't do too much stuff for free. See, I'm not playing with you. I'm for real.
Yeah.
Seriously. Seriously.
And the motivation to make more because you're being paid.
Yeah.
But also the motivation to learn more so you can make more and get paid more.
Seriously.
To take the learning itself and make you more money, as she was.
Seriously.
Yep.
That's nicer than how I said it, but yeah. But seriously, don't take on too much that you seriously cannot. If you know you can't handle doing 5 commissions,
Right.
don't do 5 commissions. Like, no, you can wait.
They
People will
want
wait.
you
They'll
more.
be here. They'll be there.
I know photographers and graphic designers have a hard time with people wanting free work.
Painters do too.
And I know that painters do too, but everybody, a lot of people, well, let's say a lot of people don't see art, period, as something that's very difficult to do. But as you know, as a student, there is a lot to learn. I mean, there is a hell of a lot that you need to learn as you're going, and that just makes it more difficult. But burnout, one thing that I've learned as I went, and I hate to say that I learned a lot of it from watching videos on Instagram, but I did learn a lot of it. If you're burnt out and you're sitting there and your work is sitting there, all you do is feel bad about yourself. That's all you do. And a lecture, even if you self-lecture, is not going to get you back to it. But just know all the time that you are going to go back to it and that you're doing something vital right now. If you're sitting on your butt, it's vital. You need rest. You need to rest your brain and your body. So you're not wasting time unless you have an assignment due. You do want to try to keep on with that and decide maybe what motivates you. And don't say grades, but decide what motivates you to get those projects done on time in your classes.
Sometimes the grade is the motivation, though. You don't want it to be, but sometimes it's like, okay, I have to do it. But
That's a lot of what I'm saying is harder than it is. It's easier to say than it is to do, for sure.
And even when it's your own work on your own time too, I think these two are kind of saying something along these lines too. Give yourself, and you kind of mentioned this earlier about with me with the hours in class. Give yourself time frames that you have to, even if you don't have to. Why can't you do 2 or 3 of something unless in the time that you have to do it? Unless then you're getting too close to burnout. And then I do think that what I would recommend that I do, and I know a lot of us do this too, is I set the bar really high, but I know I set the bar really high, so I intentionally in my head go, you have to do 12 pieces for this show, and in the back of my head I'm really going, 8'll be fine. So, but I'm not a good person about burnout. I know about how to avoid it, but I do it myself constantly.
And deadlines do a wonderful thing. I mean, we complain about students waiting till the night before.
We're the same.
Faculty are notorious for that too. So, but no, deadlines, I know the fastest way for me to get my work done is having a deadline. Because we can push off if we don't, even if you have to make that deadline yourself. But if you have a commission, you have a deadline. So sometimes you have to push through. Other times, if you need to sit, like you said, that's so important. You know, sometimes you need rest, and sometimes you just need to step away, and sometimes you just need to stare at it for 4 days. So, and that's not wasting time. But this is great. Unfortunately, we have to end this wonderful conversation. Thank you both for being here.
Yeah, enjoyed it.
I hope everyone enjoyed learning different perspectives. We want to thank Brian Williams for being our camera and web person, and the team at Media Services. They'll be doing this wonderful wizardry that getting the video up online so that you can actually revisit it. And of course, Josh Justice, our gallery coordinator, who puts the exhibits together and works with the artists and get them organized and get them here, because, you know, artists
Which is
can
more work than most of us realize.
Artists are herding cats. We are. Let me see.
She's HERD.
Herding?
Yeah, not RT.
Artists are like herding cats, yes. Just like art students are like herding cats. Please join us for our next exhibition with Ruth E. Crow. This exhibit will run from November 4th to 22nd. For more info, please visit the gallery.mcc.edu. Hope you'll be able to join us. Let's see, we did that.
Well, and the show after that is the AFA students.
Yes, the AFA students will be having their show, and that will be up through December and into January, where you get to see all you beginning students. You get to see the end of the journey and see our graduating students' artwork in the gallery and talk to them and find out how they survived the program, or if they survived the program. Just some Walking Dead there. What are you going to do next? Sleep. So thank you, Daniel, Sherel, for your time here and for all this really great things to think about as students. And thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Goodbye.